Good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Nitin Joshi, Professor in Neurology with teaching experience of 25 years. Today, we will discuss pre-op counseling of patient of BPH for TRP regarding LUTs secondary to post-TRP stricture urethra and bladder neck contracture. Stricture urethra is a well-known documented complication following any transurethral surgery. The incidence of stricture urethra following TRP is 2.2 to 9.8%. The patient of post-TRP stricture usually present within 6 months following surgery and usually present with the history of the LUTs, mainly of obstructive voiding symptoms. In post-TRP stricture, any part of the urethra may be involved, but the common site of the post-TRP stricture urethra are the normal physiological narrowings of the male urethra. The normal physiological narrowings of the male urethra are external urinary meatus, second, that is the transition from the fossa navicularis to distal penile urethra, and third, that is transition from mid-bulbar capacious urethra gradually narrowing to the proximal bulbar to the narrowest membranous urethra. The membranous urethra is fixed and narrowest due to tonic contraction of skeletal muscle of the external urinary sphincter. The bladder neck is not actually a part of urethra, neither it is the narrowest part, but post-TRP secondary bladder neck contracture and the post-TRP stricture urethra, the etiology, presentation and diagnosis is similar, and so in the post-TRP stricture, even bladder neck contracture is also included. First, we'll see the causes of post-TRP stricture. First, that is inadequate calibration or dilatation of urethra. Second, inadequate lubrication of instruments and inadequate lubrication of urethra. Third, that is the resectoscope urethral disproportion, that is large size resectoscope as compared to narrow rigid urethra. All these three will result into friction, injury, inflammation, inflammatory edema, fibrosis, stricture. Also, if there is a large thick loop with comparatively small endourethral adenoma, then this thick large loop is responsible for generation of high temperature causing hypertrophic scar. Also, if the resectionist is doing too much of to and fro movement of resectoscope in the bulbar urethra during TRP, then increased friction injury. Also, during the resection of the prostate from 7 to 9 to 11 o'clock or from the 5 to 1 o'clock, if there is excessive axial rotations, again will result into too much of friction injury. Also, various causes of significant periurethral inflammation. One, that is the prolonged duration of TRP due to large hypervascular gland causing significant urethral inflammation. Second, that is the post-TRP colonization of the urine or urinary tract infection. Then during the procedure extravasation. Then if there is excessive drag on the urethral mucosa by the catheter causing pressure necrosis or ischemia causing significant periurethral inflammation, and also there can be significant periurethral inflammation due to stray or spurious current due to improper insulation of inner vesical end of the sheath or insulation of the loop or insulation of the high frequency cord. In order to prevent or reduce the incidence of post-TRP stricture, one should do the instrumentation with well lubricated smallest possible instrument which will serve the purpose. The instrumentation should be done gently without any force. Allow the instrument to fall by its own weight, that is gravity. Instrumentation should be done under good vision with good illumination, good irrigation so as to prevent friction injury. While putting the instrument in the urethra, the dissectionist should appreciate the natural narrowings and the curvatures of the male urethra. The natural narrowings of the male urethra are: one, external urinary meatus; second, that is the transition from the fossa navicularis to distal penile urethra; and third, that is the transition from the capacious mid-bulbar to the proximal bulbar, going to the narrowest part of the membranous urethra. The normal male urethra is A-shaped due to presence of two natural curvature. The distal curvature is at pinoscrotal junction, where it is at the junction of the mobile penile urethra and fixed intrascrotal urethra. This distal curvature can be overcome by stretching the penis, while the proximal curvature is present at the junction from the capacious mid-bulbar going towards the fixed membranous urethra. This proximal curvature can be overcome by the depression of the outer end of the resectoscope sheath or the cystoscope sheath, so that the inner vesical end of the cystoscope or resectoscope sheath will get elevated so as to negotiate the curvatures without any friction injury. So appreciation of the normal narrowings and the curvatures of the male urethra are important so as to prevent the friction injury. In order to avoid the resectoscope urethral disproportion, after the first step of TURP, that is pan endoscopy, one should do the Otis urethrotomy. The Otis urethrotomy has got the handle which can rotate the instrument, and near the handle there is a dial which can show the circumference of the open instrument. Normally, the open instrument should be 4 French larger than the size of the resectoscope so as to avoid the friction injury. The Otis urethrotomy is responsible for splitting the fibrous, tough, inelastic, rigid urethral tissue, and in fact it dilates the urethra by splitting or cutting this fibrous, tough, inelastic tissue, but it does not cut the normal resilient elastic tissue. With this Otis urethrotomy, there is a single sharp incision in predetermined direction so that it heals by the epithelialization without any peripheral stricturous rings. We have seen that the external urinary meatus is a natural physiological narrowing, and so at any cost it should not be dilated by the tapered dilator, because if there is a mucosal injury, then that tear will result into inflammatory edema. Also, external urinary meatus is the site of collection of secretion of periurethral gland of Leiter. In presence of this tear, the secretions will penetrate deep and resulting into more inflammation, more inflammatory edema, more cicatrization, contracture and stricture. Also, even if the external urinary meatus and the distal urethra is dilated adequately by Otis urethrotomy, the modern resectoscope is having inner vesical end sharp due to short oblique end. And so, if one negotiate the resectoscope with this sharp end, there is a possibility of even injury, and so as to avoid the injury, the external urinary meatus should be negotiated with the help of the smoothening straight locking obturator in the resectoscope. So, once the external urinary meatus is negotiated by this straight locking obturator, it can be removed, and in the resectoscope one can introduce the visual obturator so that it becomes like a cystoscope. All this will prevent injury to the urethra. Also, in order to avoid the spurious currents and electrical dispersion and injury to the urethra, one should check the insulation of the loop inner vesical end of the sheath high frequency cord, because if there is any electrical dispersion, this will result into significant periurethral inflammation, inflammatory edema, granulation tissue, fibrosis and contracture. As we have discussed previously, bladder neck is not actually the narrow part and not the actual part of the urethra, but the bladder neck contracture resulting from the post-TRP. There will be presentation will be similar to the stricture urethra. Also, etiology will be similar, and so we will see the bladder neck contracture. The incidence of bladder neck contracture following TRP is 2% to 25%. In this post-TRP, patient will have excellent flow, but it starts gradually decreasing over a period of weeks to months to year. The average period of development of bladder neck contracture is 6 months, and patient present again with the LUTS, more of obstructive voiding symptoms, which starts worsening, and if there is superadded infection, then there will be one frequency, urgency, that is, there will be one storage voiding symptom, and then the patient may say that the patient was better off before the surgery. The main causes of bladder neck contracture are: 1. Undermining of the bladder neck or trigone, so that when it heals, it forms a diaphragm-like membrane or contracture. Second, when there is small adenoma but overzealous resection and overzealous fulguration or cauterization in the bladder neck. Now, the subtrigonal perforation can be presented just before TRP, that is before starting of the procedure of TRP, that is at the time of instrumentation. This is because the normal male urethra is A-shaped, but sometimes there is additional third curvature, and this third additional natural curvature is seen in presence of significant bladder neck elevation due to posterior commissural hyperplasia or due to presence of prominent protuberant median lobe at 5 and 7 o'clock position. At this time, if the straight rigid sheath of cystoscope or receptoscope is passed straight away, then it will result into penetration under the trigone, causing subtrigonal perforation. So while passing this straight rigid instrument, one should depress the outer end of the sheath still further, so that the inner vesical end of the straight rigid resectoscope or the cystoscope sheath will get elevated adequately. Sometimes one has to give significant head lobe position, or in case of median lobe, there is a presence of a groove at 5 and 7 o'clock between the median lobe and the medial aspect of the lateral lobe, through which one can negotiate this straight rigid instrument without any injury. During TRP, there can be subtrigonal perforation. This is because one has to appreciate that there is a smooth ring of muscle fibers placed parallel to each other, and this ring of smooth muscle, which is placed at bladder neck parallel to each other, is a part of internal sphincter. If there is any deep resection, then in the center there can be subtrigonal perforation, while on the lateral aspect there can be free frank perforation. If this any form of perforations, subtrigonal perforations, are smaller, then they heal by the fibrosis. This is because whenever perforation, it's injury, so inflammatory edema. This will result into deposition of granulation tissue, resulting into the fibrosis, contracture, and secondary bladder neck contracture. The other cause is this adenoma is small but overzealous resection. Normally at the bladder neck, there is a part of internal sphincter which is a ring of smooth muscle fibers. Due to overzealous resection, there is resection of this normal healthy smooth muscle bundles. Removal of this small normal smooth muscle bundle in healing process will result into deposition of excessive granulation tissue. During the process of healing of this granulation tissue, it will result into fibrous tissue, and it will result into a ring of the fibrous diaphragm-like contracture, classically bladder neck contracture. Whenever the patient post-operatively, you have to diagnose the stricture urethra or post-urethral stenosis of bladder neck contracture. Patient should be counseled that he requires regular follow-up, so that the patient can be diagnosed early about the stricture, post-TRP stricture, bladder neck contracture or stenosis. In order to diagnose, there should be proper evaluation by detailed history taking to see the International Prostatic Symptom Score. Second, sonography to see the pre-void and post-void with bladder thickness. Then uroflowmetry for urine flow rate. And suspicion of infection during routine microscopy. In order to rule out the stricture, if the patient is having significant post-void residue, thickened bladder, decreased urine flow rate, all suggest bladder outlet obstruction, which can be because of stricture urethra, stenosis or bladder neck contracture. If there is suspicion of stricture urethra, one should do ascending urethrogram under strict aseptic precaution after ruling out active urinary tract infection or after the treatment of active urinary tract infection. If there is any suspicion of bladder neck contracture, the blind bouginess should be avoided, but the evaluation should be done under vision, under visual control. When you are doing the evaluation, then the passage is smooth, that is, one can pass easily, unobstructed from the anterior urethra, membranous urethra up to Veru. After Veru, there will be the prostatic urethra will be in form of a closed cavity, and the walls of the cavity will be formed by crisscross fibers, and then after that one will see a tiny pinhole aperture of classical bladder neck contracture. The secondary bladder neck contracture is maybe in midline, maybe at 12 o'clock position. The treatment for the secondary bladder neck contracture is always surgical, and principal is taking multiple radial cuts. Now these multiple radial cuts are taken so as to incise this fibrous diaphragm-like membrane so that the bladder neck opens widely. These multiple radial cuts can be taken with the cold knife like Chassez urethrotomy, or the multiple radial cuts can be taken by the hot knife, that is Collins knife. Taking these radial cuts with the Collins knife is easier and safer. This is because whenever you are cutting, there is maybe a chance of injury to the blood vessel and opening of the bladder, which can be controlled immediately by the Collins knife being a hot knife, that is, it is an active electrode. Now the technique of bladder neck incision resulting from the secondary bladder neck contracture. First, proper evaluation, that is passing the resectoscope with visual obturator under visual control. The passage is unobstructed till the Veru. There is a closed cavity. Once you reach the Veru, remove the visual obturator. Then thumb operating working element with 30 degree scope with the Collins knife and high frequency cord is attached. Study the anatomy of the pinhole contracture of the bladder neck. See whether it is at 12 o'clock, midline, or whatever is the position. The blade of the Collins knife has to be vertical. That is, the first cut is either 12 or 6 o'clock. But the 6 o'clock incision should be avoided. This is because if there is extensive bladder neck contracture, the bladder neck is pulled towards the interureteric bar, and so there is a danger of accidental cutting of the interureteric bar. In order to prevent this complication, one has to take the first incision at 12 o'clock, and so one has to take the retrograde cut, that is keeping the blade vertical. One has to push the blade into the bladder so that the blade is facing the anterior wall of the bladder, and take a retrograde cut. The cut should be taken only that much so as to cut open the fibrous ring so much that the resectoscope can be easily inserted. Once the resectoscope is inserted into the bladder, allow to fill the bladder with irrigation fluid, and once the bladder is distended, study the incision which has been taken with respect to both ureteric orifice, interureteric bar, bladder neck and trigone. Then you can keep on taking multiple radial cuts, that is 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock. Always the incision has to be extended adequately proximally in the bladder so that the bladder neck should open widely. Always take a multiple radial lighter cuts than a single deep cut, because if one takes a single deep cut, there is a chance of injury to the sinuses, which can result into troublesome bleeding. So in order to avoid this troublesome bleeding, one should take the superficial lighter multiple cuts. If there is any minor bleeder, that can be immediately controlled by the Collins knife, which is the active electrode. Then one put the catheter and the patient can be followed up. Thank you very much.